was to throw a question out, and I'm going to throw a question out to the panelists first, and then we'd like to get your reactions and your comments on
I'll drive that process when we get to ask the question, so I'll give you some instructions in a minute.
Okay. So let me ask the questions to the panelists, and then Mark will come up and explain how to use these little doodads that you have, the clickers, and then you'll be able to respond. But while I'm asking, does everyone have one? I know some people came in.
People don't have one. Can they let us? Anyone who doesn't have one?
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
I need one.
You need one?
Yeah.
Anyone else that needs one?
All set?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So for the panelists, what we want to do is ask. We've heard these presentations, and again, like I said, we're developing this green list, and we really want to get a reaction on how you think it will be received. So the question is, how do you think governments and protected area managers are likely to respond to the green list initiative? Anyone?
I think it was the switches on the bottom.
My problem is I can't turn it on. Okay, thank you. I suspect, and I think Vinod brought this up in his presentation, that with luck, I think managers are quite open to this idea. I think over the years, the idea of management effectiveness of standards is becoming increasingly well known among protected area managers. But for governments and agencies, it seems sometimes like we're continuously, or the conservation movement is continuously throwing out new ideas and new things. I've been told once that, is this the next Bible that you're producing this time? So I think we might have a little bit of work, sometimes persuading the governments who aren't so much involved in day-to-day management of protected areas, but I think those that are involved in day-to-day management, I think we'll see fairly quickly the benefits of this system. So I suspect some of our hard work will be at the top end of the protected areas world. But that's where having a large organisation like IUCN and some of the big NGOs and important regional organisations like WAI behind us should really help us promote this initiative.
Okay. I would like to talk about from the perspective of management agencies. Greenest initiative is a positive message. So it's on the well-managed protected areas. So I believe positive message has got lots of potentials. So provide more motivation and stimulate the managers or volunteers. So celebrate their efforts also. So I would like to strengthen the positive message. More positive message is more conserve the areas. So I think it's a very good initiative to encourage our efforts.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm working for a parks agency which I won't name at the moment, and I will briefly recount our situation because we were one of the trial states. I was expecting some resistance from our managers, again because they're always being asked to do something new, but the managers were actually extremely enthusiastic, and when we got our reference group together we also had very enthusiastic support from the tourism sector and also from the NGO sector and from our Rangers Association. So very good grassroots support. The problem came with a political change where the government saw it as an unnecessary involvement in something that wasn't core business, and where they were also concerned when I got the rejected briefing note back, the bit that was circled was that every 5 years it would come up for a re-evaluation. So there was some concern at political level. I think that's something that will be overcome once it's got a good momentum behind it, but it made us realise the importance of selling this at a political level very carefully.
I think from the
the Colombian perspective, I believe that there is a strong political commitment because we need like some benchmark or some milestones on how to really analyzing how we are moving forward for a better management. And for the Latin perspective, I think we need like some ambassadors and a very strong message out and how that is important for to set up like management standards for measuring and to move forward and to really be part of the green list. And I believe that Julia is a very good ambassador in our Latin America network of protected areas that they can really have the political will and the endorsement, because it's a very good momentum of how we really set the common standard for the region and really commit for the our key goals.
Thank you. I want to ask the same question again to the audience and just get your feedback.
We'll ask them in a minute.
Okay, we'll ask you in a minute with this.
Yeah.
So I'll ask one more question then to the panelists. Here's another one. How do you think the green list might be used by non-governmental organizations and others interested in protected areas, either nationally or internationally? In other words, we've given a couple examples with the Tiger standards, protected areas. Are there other potential places where you see it might be applied?
Well, okay, so we've already seen that there's strong interest from some NGOs like WWF in this. I think a real challenge and where I would like to see the green list, once it gets going, look in more detail is some of the other governance types of protected areas, private protected areas, and the ICCA's, the Indigenous Community and Conserved Areas. Often because those are more individual sites that won't have an agency behind them or necessarily an organisation working with them, it might be more of a challenge to get out to those smaller sites, more individual sites, but I think it would be important that they're included. But I think the bigger NGOs, I think, will see the benefits of this pretty quickly because we already have an NGO behind the CATS project. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with Sue. We're certainly excited about the potential to be used in the Conservancy, the private protected areas and Indigenous management areas. Also the smaller NGOs, I think we were very excited about the concept of preparing the prospectus for a protected area should involve the community and can involve some of the local NGOs if you have something like a Friends of Parks as well as the local stakeholders in evaluating the state of the parks. One thing that we found very interesting was some of the management effectiveness aspects, and I think it's related to what Vinod said about do you have management plans, how are your staff, etc., are relatively straightforward. The one that always becomes the most complex is the evaluation of outcomes. What is the ecological status of this protected area, and what is your relationship with the community? And in a lot of cases, we do need to collect some additional evaluation of that, and that's certainly where scientists, NGOs and other people can have a major role.
Interesting question. I think it's very important to have full participation of many different sectors of civil society with government. It can't just be seen as a government process, and especially around who decides what goes on the list, who puts things forward. So really open participation all the way up in terms of making the decisions, being on reference groups, and just providing that the critical input to maintain standards and credibility of any future standard and list.
Okay, thanks. Now we're going to have Mark.
Okay, so there's an opportunity here. A first question just to find out where you're from and get you used to. First question to find out where you're from and get you used to using these. So 14 people have responded already. So the numbers 1 to 7, where are you from? I don't know how many are from Mars, but we'll see. So you can only register once, so it doesn't matter how often you click it will only capture your vote once. So no voting early and voting often. If people can just respond and let us know where they're from. And look at that, we're up to 35, 36, 37, everyone 38, 43, wow, we're going up. Right. So that looks like that's stabilised, that looks like the number that we've got, 46, 47.
3 more.
Okay. Okay, so now it should. This one. Yes, there we go. So there's the polling closed. So we're mostly from Europe. We've got Europe and looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, and Asia dominating. So that's where we've got the groups from. So you've got the idea now of how to vote. 2% from Mars. Okay, who's from Mars? Someone.
There's no Caribbean there, so all the Pacific Islands.
Okay, so the next question. Prior to coming to this meeting, had you previously heard of the IUCN initiative to develop a green list of well-managed protected areas? Yes or no? So 1 for yes and 2 for no. It won't. If you try pressing 7 this time, it won't register. So just 1 or 2. Okay.
Where did you get these?
We use them for teaching. So, okay, looks like we've only 43. We've got some abstentions this time. So let's have a look at this and we'll see what the result is. So 72% had heard of it before they came along to the World Conservation Congress. So that's really encouraging. It's actually, given that we're just starting to launch it, that's great news. Now to the next question, so the one that we asked the panel, but this time we're asking you, do you think for your country the Protected Area Agency or the government is likely to want to participate in the green list? And so you've got a voting from 1 to 5. Up to and we're capturing this data, we'll be able to analyse it later. And of course we've got your social security number, that these little things collect this automatically, so we'll be getting back to those, but if we don't like your answer. So it looks like we've got, I think that's stabilised at 45. Let's see what the view is. Okay, so that's interesting. I want at any stage the panel are free to comment on that in terms of what do you think of the way and people respond. So we have it looks like the majority think it's likely, but there's a number that are unsure and a few who think it's not likely to get support. So that's, I guess it is a voluntary process, so it's one of those things we would encourage countries to participate in it, but clearly it's something that they've got to want to do. Any comment from the panel? Or? We've got one more question before we'll get David to throw another demo question to you. Jump in if you want to. No? Okay, so the next question, the same one again, we asked the panel. What do you think the reaction of civil society, of NGOs is likely to be in terms of their response to the green list? So again, we've got up to 45, got 45 regular voters. And, okay, so much more positive from the NGOs than from government, which probably not surprising, but interesting. And I guess that to me, that throws up some ideas and some challenges in terms of how do we present the green list, particularly to government. Certainly a couple of the people I've spoken to in government where there has been a concern, they've said, we're concerned about sites that might not get on the list. What if we get a no? And how will that play out politically is an issue that may come out of those areas. Any comment from the... Yep.
When I saw this graph, something is crossing my mind. So I thought it's similar situation. I think it's because question and application is similar because the target is same to protect biodiversity and conserved areas. So NGO, GO is not different. Target is the same. So I thought it's similar, but NGO is more supportive. So it might cause by the available resources. I mean, government bodies got their own budget, so they don't want to evaluate assessment and ranking. But NGOs, so if they get the green list update, they can get some advantage on the resource allocation or more support, public support. So they want more. That's my idea.
Thank you. Okay, now you get the gist of what we're getting at. The two questions when we started, how do you think the governments will be likely to respond, and then NGOs and others. We'd be interested in any other thoughts you may have on those two, and feel free to use the microphone to let us know. Anybody have any comments or other ideas on what we just discussed? Okay. You really want to play with this toy, I can tell.
Maybe there is one.
Oh, there is one. I didn't see it. Yes, I want to go ahead and
come up to the
mic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
switch it on. It's on the block.
All right.
Sorry, I'm Peter Shady. I'm no fixed address. I've been involved in the green list process, but I wasn't from Mars. I didn't. I think I mean the results here are interesting, but in a sense kind of predictable. I think because you would sense some hesitation, some nervousness amongst government bodies, perhaps in exposing themselves to this sort of scrutiny and this sort of third-party assessment on a rolling basis. But I think the experience that we've had with management effectiveness evaluation and the appetite that's grown around that around the world is a good indication that this could take off. I guess the other comparison is World Heritage, which is a set of standards which countries, frankly flock to. I mean, the growth of the World Heritage List is phenomenal, and I think if we can tap into the motivation that's around that with the Green List, that's a good signal to us in terms of how to move forward. I think the issue here is in the detail. I think the devil in the detail of how the system would work, but also what are the protocols and who in a sense are the clients for the system. I think that needs to be thought through. We have a similar issue with the categories work where we're looking at assignment processes there, and there is a concern, I think, that if NGOs, for instance, are getting involved in running a green listing process, I mean that could be a very healthy thing, but it could be seen as a major threat, I guess, to some of the agencies. So I think the key is probably accountability. Who has the accountability formally for the management of these systems? And we really need to think about that, because I think we might risk undermining the value of this system if suddenly it's seen as being used as a tool, a lobby tool, or something like that.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else? Okay, let's go on to another question then. do you think that, and this is to the panelists right now, do you think that the green list and the conservation assured tiger standards process will lead to improved standards of management?
Yes. It's an easy answer. I think it has to be not seen as a list, and you're on the list and you're off the list, and you know the focus on the actual accreditation. The focus has to be on what's on the banner there, which is protected areas achieving quality, and we really had to keep that front and center as we develop the process of the green list, because that's really what this is about: motivation, inspiration, rewarding success, and trying to provide a platform for protected areas to aspire to, and hopefully to generate the resources and the support to help them achieve that.
Yes, I agree that it should definitely improve quality. One of the questions that people debated a lot at the beginning was, would it mean that all the protected areas in Australia and England and the States got on the list and nothing from developing countries? I found it quite interesting in our Australian agency. We've got a lot of protected areas that are reasonably well managed, but when we actually looked at our management effectiveness data and looked for protected areas that were consistently high in all those areas, it was a lot more difficult